Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg. In this video, I want to take a look at using the FaderPort 2 with Logic Pro. Now, we all know that we can use the fader for volume and the encoder for pan, but there's a lot more functions, some less obvious than others due to some labeling discrepancies. Let's take a look at what we can do with this in Logic. Here, I've got a guitar part, and I want to do some volume automation. Now, in channel mode, I'm going to use this to scroll down to my guitar bus so that I can create some automation there. Now, we can zoom. I'm going to press Shift and scroll, and we'll see it in that color, which indicates the zooming mode. Now, this is for horizontal zooming, but I can use the next and previous buttons for zooming vertically like that, which is what I want. So with that done, this will now control volume as I expect, and I can simply press touch to start recording, but I want to use a latch mode. So as expected, that's switching to touch, but shift with touch is going to switch to latch mode. So let me capture some automation. Great. So now that that's done, I want to automate the bass coming up in the chorus. Now I have some markers in place. Let me first go back to channel mode and scroll up over here. So coming up on the chorus. I want to bring it up in these holes here. So what I can do is use my scroll mode to navigate by bars back and forth. And we can press scroll again to get it in this flashing mode where it'll now scrub in divisions based on the nudge value. And I can navigate by markers as well. So if I press this marker mode button, I can use this to jump to the next and previous markers. So I'm going to start on the chorus there. I'm just going to go back to regular scroll mode. And again, I've got my bass bus selected so I can just write my regular volume automation. And again, I'm going to go Shift Touch to put it into latch mode, and I'll write the automation that I want. Great. Now with that done, I want to do a fade out at the end. So let me switch back to marker mode, and I can use this to go by bars or this to jump by markers. And I've got a marker set for the end. And now with that done, I'm going to go to channel mode, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of my track list where I've got my mix bus here as a track. And with that done, I can now switch this to Shift Touch for latch mode. And I'm controlling the stereo output there. However, if I scroll down here and actually click on this, it's now going to control that. So with that done, I'm going to start at 0 and record my fade out. So there's a nice, long, natural human fade out. I'll switch back to read mode, and in scroll, we can go back and just listen to a little bit of that. And so on. Now let's look at a few ancillary functions. I'm in scroll mode now, and I can move the cursor. If I go to loop mode, it's going to enable the cycle as it's set, but I can also use the next and previous buttons to set the start and end range. For example, if I press this with here, it's going to start the marker there, and now I can advance like that. And if I use the previous one, it's going to set the end to where I start, and we can create a skip cycle like that. But moving forward, I want to loop the chorus. So let me scroll to there, and I'm going to start by setting my loop marker there. And I'm rounding it off to bars, but of course, if I'm in this alternate scroll mode, I can use this and get it in divisions of 16th notes. But let's go back like that, back here, and I'm going to set the loop like that. So now I can work on this section over and over again if I want. Now we can turn the click on or off with this, and you see that reflected in the metronome icon up there. And there are a couple of more less obvious functions. We can jump to screen sets. Shift with marker will jump to screen set 4. And if I use Shift with the click button, it jumps to screen set 2. And I can always get back to screen set 1 using Shift and Master. We know that the knob controls pan by default when we're in pan mode. So let's go here and we can see we're controlling the pan. But if I press Shift with the pan, it's kind of a flip mode where the fader will now control pan as well. So very interesting. And we can always press the encoder button to snap back to default values. Now we know that we can solo tracks, but if we press Shift with solo, it clears all solos. Same thing with mute. I can mute that track, and then maybe I'm going to mute that track as well. And up on that one, and I'll mute that one as well. Now, if I press Shift with mute, it's going to take all of them out of mute mode. Similarly with arming, when I press this, it arms it for recording. But if I press Shift arm, it'll arm all the tracks for recording, which we don't want to do right now. We have undo and redo as well. For example, let's say I'm going to just delete that region. I can undo using Shift with the previous button. And there it's back. And Shift with next is kind of a redo. So I'm going to undo that and bring that back. Now we can also use the encoder button to create markers. For example, let me scroll till the end. I'll jump over here and we'll go to the end of the song. So I don't want to mess up my arrangement. And let's say I want to drop a marker in there. When I'm in marker mode, I can just press the encoder button and boom, drop the marker. Go another couple of bars, drop another marker in there, and so on. So let's undo those. I'm going to use Shift with previous to get rid of those markers. Now, you may find that occasionally if you're using the rebuild defaults function or if you're reinstalling your FaderPort, you might get an offset of 8 channels. And that's easy to fix. Under Preferences and Control Surfaces, we go to Setup. And then here I'll select this and we'll see this is the PreSonus FaderPort 2 set for the output and input ports. But here, this fader bank offset shouldn't be set to 8. It should be set to 0. So just make sure that's at 0 if you have an offset. Hope this gives you a few more ideas on how you can better integrate the FaderPort into your workflow with Logic.